Hi folks, welcome to another Cancha tutorial. Today we're going to talk about classifiers and how to get geomet models into block models, for example. But you can use these tools for other things too, not just for that. So we're going to be using the body dataset again. But before we get going, we've got to understand first of all what the geomet model we want to populate is. So to explain that better, you can use a different software called YED. This is my favorite flowcharting software. You can use your own icons and stuff like that to create flowcharts for metallurgical mineral processing. But I'm using in this case to describe a geomet decision tree. This is a great way to explain to mine planners, mining engineers, the block model owners, and also other stakeholders as to the logic of your geomet decision tree. So when you're putting together domains, you know, how do these domains come about? So basically, start at the first block here is the whole block model. For each block in the block model, you decide, is gold less than 0.15 grams a ton? If it is, it's low grade, that means it goes to waste. And we're going to say that's non-acid generating waste, for example. Yeah. The next one would be, is it oxide? So does the ox feature in the block model, is it equal to ox1 or ox2? If it does equal those, then it should be going to the heap leach. If it doesn't, that means that it's not low grade and it's not oxide, so it must be transition or sulfide with a good grade in it. So the question is going to be, what's the gold to sulfur ratio? If it's got more than a gram per ton of gold per percent sulfur, it means that we can afford oxygen in the oxygen plant for the autoclave. So let's send it to the autoclave and liberate that gold. If it has less than 1 gram per percent sulfur, then we're going to send it to waste, and that's going to be potentially acid generating waste. Okay, so this is what a typical geomet decision tree would look like. Okay, so that's sorted. Now we want to implement this logic into Cancha and get this logic populated into a block model. So jumping back into Bonnie, what we can see here is that in the block model features, we've got the gold, we've got the oxide domains, we've got the sulfur, but we don't have the gold to sulfur ratio. That was one of the things we needed to work with in order to get the decision tree to work. So I'm just going to right click here on the Bonnie table. I'm going to create feature formula. Okay, and this one here is going to be called gold divided by sulfur. And we're going to go ahead and put in the formula gold ppm divided by sulfur percent. And that's going to be the calculation we want to do. Apply. And now we can use this feature. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create the categorical decision tree that we just saw in YED. And so to do that, we're going to come to the second one here. So hit apply, but that's okay. So here we want to come categorize features. Okay. I'm not sure it's going to work. I'm probably going to hit the orange button here just to reconsolidate, just to make sure I have a full use of that gold divided by sulfur. Okay. So domain classifier, basically we've got two types. We've got numerical and categorical. First of all, we're going to use it to create the domain, categorical. And then after that, we're going to put numerical formula in each one using the numerical one. Right? So categorical first. Here we're going to call it geomet domains. Okay. And I think we had like 4 of them, right? So we had non-acid generating waste, we had heap leach feed, we had autoclave feed, and we had acid generating waste. Now you'll notice the last member is always the remainder. So you never would have like logic to the bottom with decisions at the end, the final blocks of the remainder. That way everything in the block model is going to get a value. Okay. So NAG, from memory, that was greater than 0.15 grams per ton gold. So that's just greater than 0.15. That's good. Everything greater than 0.15 is going to be nag. The way I opened this up was I double clicked, right? So you double click on the feature to get that window to open up. I could have another one here, like say for example, I want to make sure that I didn't say it in the logic for the tree, but we might also say that the sulfur has to be less than 1%, okay, which would be reasonable. So we want to make sure it's non-acid generating, so the sulfur is less than 1%, greater than 0.15. I got the gold wrong. It should be gold. Where are we? Instead of greater than 0.15, it should have been less than 0.15. We're going to throw all the good grade to the waste. That's not going to work. Okay, so there we go. So here we've got gold is less than 0.15 and sulfur is less than 1%. In that case, it's going to be designated as nag. Else, if we've got oxide domain, which is categorical information, so we'll just choose the ones we want. Else, if it's oxide domains, so not fresh and not transition, just ox, we'll hit apply. So if it's ox value 1 or ox 2, either of the two oxide domains, we're going to send it to the heap leach. Okay. If it's not nag and it's not heap leach, then we want to ask the question, is the gold divided by sulfur greater than 1? If that's true, then it's going to be called autoclave. If it's not, then it's going to be PAG. And that's the tree. That's how we've implemented that tree. Basically in the logic, we've added a little extra term in there just to show you the and. But basically you hit it, apply. So now if we go to the block model in 3D, it's going to just reconsolidate. First of all, we can bring up, for example, gold divided by sulfur. We can see how that's been populated in the block model. Now we can bring up the geomet domains, and we can see we've got heap leach, PAG, autoclave feed, nag, and there's also the others, but it's just a database issue. We shouldn't have others there because there's no others. So basically, we've got these different domains. We can turn off the heap leach. You can see all the other stuff inside. Interestingly, there's very little of the nag, just a couple of blocks there. Okay, so we've got the domains. Now we want to populate a recovery formula. Okay, and what we do is we go back to features again, and the same button, but this time instead of categorical, we're going to get numerical. Okay, and this one we're going to call gold recovery, and we're going to give it the geomet domains as the categories that are going to classify the numerical result. Okay, so let's say, for example, we might say that the autoclave is going to be something like, well, let's say 75% plus, 5 times the gold grade. Okay, hit the button twice. So 75 plus, we've got a formula. This is a formula that you may be generating in targets. You've brought your formula for that you want to apply for this geomet domain for this target. Just hit apply. So everything that's been classified as autoclave feed is going to have this recovery. Heap leach, maybe we've got something like 55. Let's make it like 95 minus 5 times the sulfur grade. How about that? Times, there we go. Apply. Nag, we're going to basically put 0 because the formula is going to be 0. Okay. Others doesn't exist, so we'll just put in the operation in this formula as 0. I'm just double clicking each time on this white bar. So double clicking on PAG, 0 as well because it's waste, and remainder. What the hell? 0. Okay. So here for the two that are actually going to get fed to processing plants, we've put the formula. The rest we'll just put 0 and hit apply. And now we're going to have gold recovery here in the block model as a new feature. So we go back to 3D again. We can now load up these gold recovery numbers. And we can see here that we've got these different values. We've got high for a lot of the oxides there, we've got high recoveries, and then a little bit of nag on the top here. They've been turned into 0% recovery. The PAG is 0%, and then the autoclave feed is the stuff in between. We can look at those as the geomet domains. And then, of course, we could go now into, for example, a summary table, and we could say, give me now the gold recovery, and give it to me grouped by geomet domain. And now we've got the gold recovery by each of these, we could also go into resource table, and we could say, okay, give me the, the gold grade and the gold recovery by geomet domain. And now we've got this nice resource table that tells us how many samples we've got in each of these domains. No longer talking about oxide 1, oxide 2, and sulfur and stuff like that. Now we're talking about heap leach feed, autoclave feed. And you can see that we've only got one sample in the autoclave feed, so clearly an issue, clearly a problem. Not a lot of tons, less than 1 million tons. But there you go. That's how you use that domain classifier. Good stuff.